Hello, my name is Melanie Vega, and today I'm going to be presenting my comic book. Before I get started on presenting it, I want to explain some of the inspirations of different comics and comic book authors that took a part in inspiring my own comic. So the first one is Mi Barrio. This one is by Robert Renteria. The next one was Sangre de Barrio, and it's by Jaime Martin. This one was one that inspired most of the story in mine. It's called El Barrio de la Luz, and it's by Inyo Asano, and it's a compilation of multiple stories, which is what mine is. And then Ernest Hemingway, Los Muchachos del Barrio, isn't a comic per se, but it's more of a book, but it does talk about the environment of the barrio and the struggles and stuff like that. The author, Alfredo, he mentions that the story is about real people, real characters, and those characters include himself, which is what my comic kind of is about, because the stories that appear in mine are scenarios that could happen in real life, even though I haven't experienced them. I know people that have experienced them, and I know that there's other people in the world that have gone through them as well. And then the last one is called Quinto Barrio, and this one, it was mostly the art that inspired my comic of the cover. It's a black and white. The story itself of this comic didn't inspire mine, but it was the art. So first, I want to show the sketches that I made. I just sketched quick panels and characters. I didn't add any sort of detail or face, any sort of color, but this would be the first story. This is the first panel. This would be the second panel, and this would be the third panel, and anywhere where there's scratching is where I would have wanted to put some text. This one would be a separate story from the first. In a different page, this would be the first panel. This would be the second one, the third one, and here's where I would have wanted to put text. And when I'm sketching, I don't really like to be clean. I like to be very messy with my sketches, which is why it's very very scratchy and not in place. And then this would be the last story. The first panel, this is where I would have wanted to put text. The second panel, and then the third panel. And I didn't do any cover or ending sketches, I just did sketches of the stories. So this is the actual comic, this is the cover. And as you can see, it was kind of inspired by that Quinto Barrio comic where it's just black and white and it's very bold. The comic, I titled it Don't Tell Them, and I'll explain the stories of how people experience things and they don't really want to let their loved ones know the struggles that they're going through, so they kind of hide them to themselves. That's why the art is of a person, and I wanted to scratch out her face because she's hiding behind a mask. She's hiding what she truly feels, or them or they're hiding what they truly feel behind a mask. They're not really a person. They're an abstract entity that no one really knows. This is the first story. For all of them, I decided to not color them and to keep them black and white or just white and another color, because I find a lot of comics don't really have color. They just have black and white, and they have like some shading and stuff like that. So that's how I decided to keep mine. So the first story is Maria came home from work late again. The kids are excited to see their mama. She doesn't want to tell them how tired she is. She smiles at them instead. And here's the panel of her coming home and her kids are playing. And in this panel, it shows them excited to see their mama as she came home. And then in the last panel, she says, Hola niños, hi kids. And the last black panel, how was your day today? So in this story, basically, the mom, Maria, has 2 kids at home. She works late shifts to make ends meet, but she doesn't want to tell them how tired she is. She just wants to smile at them and talk about their day to them. The second one, Luciana discovered another bruise on her body. The kids are asking where it came from. She doesn't want to tell them their father beats her. Luciana tells them it was an accident. So in this panel, it shows Luciana, and she discovered the bruise on her arm. In the second panel, her little kid comes through the door, and he asks, Mommy, what's that bruise? And then in this panel, it's a flashback of what happened, of how she got the bruise. It was her husband beating her. And then in the last black box, it says, Don't worry, sweetie, fue un accidente, which means it was an accident. So basically, in this story, the fact that she's hiding what her husband does to her from her kids is the aspect of hiding behind a mask that says don't tell them. She doesn't want to tell the kids that their father beats her. Like in the first story, the mom, Maria, doesn't want to tell her kids that she's tired from work. And then in the last comic, the third story is the last one. It says Ricardo was arrested at school for having drugs in his backpack. And I drew a panel of the drugs. And then the second text, his friends offered them to him. This is a drawing of his friends offering, or his friend offering drugs to him. And then it says his mother was devastated. And the mother is sitting, she's crying because her son was arrested and he was caught with drugs. And in the last panel, this is the aspect of the story where he doesn't want to tell his mom because he's so ashamed. He doesn't want to tell her that he never even intended to use them. And then the final is the back of the comic. The back page has a little summary. It says, Don't Tell Them is a compilation of stories of the struggles of people face living in the Barrio. Topics of financial struggles, domestic abuse, and drugs can all be found in this comic. And it says stories of Maria, Luciana, and Ricardo. I just used panels that were already in the stories, and I recycled them and I used them again in the back. And then over here would be contact information of the author, which is me. So again, this is the title. This is the first story. This is the second story. And then this is the last story. It's not a typical comic book superhero or where it just follows the lives of one person. It follows the lives of multiple people, which is what one of the other comics inspired. It was a compilation of multiple people's stories, which is what I wanted to do. So that's my final comic, my final presentation with all my sketches and my inspirations. And thank you for watching.